Welcome to Creative Piecemeal. I'm Tammy Takeishi, a board-certified music therapist. Join me each week as a new guest from across the fine and creative arts spheres shares struggles, triumphs, laughs, words of wisdom, and more in authentic, thought-provoking, and inspiring interviews. Hello and welcome to Creative Piecemeal Podcast. I am Tammy, and today I'm here with Boone Frogget. He is a lead singer and the guitarist of the band Otis, and they have a recent album and a single out right now called Last Fool in the Line. Their music is a mix of classic rock, heavy blues, roots, and southern rock. So, Boone, very excited to have you on the show to talk about music and whatever else we get to.
All right. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So I would love to start at the beginning. Like, who or what influenced you to follow the passion to do guitar and to be in the music business?
Well, I had music in my family from a very young age. My grandfather was a award-winning old-time fiddler, and my dad played like a Bakersfield honky-tonk style guitar. So that's I grew up with very traditional styles of music in the house, and they had me on stage from when I was 8 years old. So it was just something that the family did every weekend, and I kind of had it in my blood from the beginning. But what really kind of changed my path is when I discovered a B.B. King cassette tape in my dad's collection, and as soon as I heard B.B.'s voice and that big vibrato, I was like, yeah, this is it. You know, I can y'all keep your bluegrass and honky tonk stuff. I'm going to play blues. So
nice. I must, a lot of, obviously it's like potato chips. You can't just have one guitar. How many guitars do you own, and what's your favorite one right in this moment?
I guess my favorite right now is a guitar that I just picked up, Facebook Marketplace deal. It's a 2003 Gibson Custom Shop Historic non-reverse Firebird. It's modeled after the non-reverse Firebird 1, so there's two P100s opposed to humbucker pickups, and it's I've always wanted one because I've seen Clarence Gatemouth Brown and other people play non-reverse Firebirds over the years, so I was able to pick that up, and I've kind of fell in love with it. I was like, this is going to be. I thought I wasn't going to take it out on the road, but it's been out on the road with me since I bought it. But I probably have 17, 18 guitars right now.
Is there any other instrument that you would love to experiment with just for fun?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have a pedal steel guitar because I've always been drawn to that sound. So either that or like a tree organ. I love that sound as well, but I'm pretty stuck to guitar.
So with your band, you've got the single out and you guys have been doing some shows. Like, what's one of your favorite things about working with your group?
Just being out on the road and playing shows. It's so fun to connect with people in that way and feel the energy from the audience. And it's always like when people see us before we play, they're kind of like, what is this going to be about? Who are these guys? And then we get up there and do our thing, and we can kind of slowly kind of win the crowd over. We really enjoy doing these opening act shows. We've been doing some shows with Jackal and the Kentucky Headhunters and Wayne Baker Brooks, and it's fun to kind of hop and play different genres and kind of tailor the set list to the demographic that we're playing for. So that's a lot of fun.
What is one of your favorite things about being a guitar player and being in a band, just from a creative standpoint?
With guitar, it's just so versatile. It can go so many different directions, and there's no other instrument that can emulate the human voice quite like a guitar can, especially with slide guitar. So it's fun to kind of do a call and response thing. I'll sing something and then I'll play something, kind of back to myself like that. And it's fun to kind of have that musical conversation that you can have with the guitar.
Nice. So your full album is upcoming, but are you able to release any like tidbits about like how that's been for you guys, songwriting and creating on that so far?
Oh, it's so easy for us to write songs as a band. It's like every time we get together to rehearse, it turns into a writing session. We're like, the show will be fine. Let's keep on working on these ideas. So we're really looking forward to getting an opportunity to get a full length release out there. The singles thing is what everybody's doing right now because with streaming, there's not a lot of return on your investment to record an album like there has been in the past. So people's kind of figuring out new ways to do things. And there's a lot about releasing singles that I enjoy, but at the same time, you only get to show so much of what the band can do with each song, as opposed to having kind of a full view of what the band's about with an album. So definitely looking forward to getting a full length release out there.
Yeah, I heard that from another artist that I interviewed not too long ago, that it seems to be a thing where, like you said, because of streaming, because of social media, because of short segments of content, doing singles or even just snippets of a song seems to be the way to propagate attention nowadays.
Yeah, it's like people's with social media and technology, it's like people's span has just been cut in half. And it's we'll post like a 30-second reel, and sometimes people only watch maybe 10 to 15 seconds of it, so we can't even keep them for 30 seconds. So it's a hard thing to work through. Social media can be great. It's a great way to connect with people, but it's also just kind of hard to cut through everything else that's going on there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It really is. And it's almost like having another job managing social media, right?
Yeah, for sure. I do it for our band, and then I also do it for the Kentucky Headhunters. So it's like between the two, it feels like I'm always posting something all the time. And so there's a lot of fun aspects to it. Figuring out what works and what don't, and what kind of people are watching what you're putting out there. So it's a challenge at the same time.
Yeah. So I was just curious, because you are involved in the creative arts, obviously you must have been influenced growing up, so what are some things in your music collection that might be surprising to someone?
There's a lot of honky tonk music in my record collection. I really like that the Texas West Swing stuff, Bob Wills, stuff like that. But I really think what people miss about that music is that's where Dickie Betts got a lot of the harmony guitar ideas for what happened later in the Allman Brothers, especially the harmonies after Dwayne passed. Like on Jessica, what him and Les Dudek were playing was really Western swing inspired. So I love that stuff. I love early jazz, Shirley Scott, Stanley Turrentine, stuff like that. But yeah, I also love a lot of African American spiritual music and gospel music, because that's where it all really, really come from, the music we have in America today. So I always try to trace the roots of music back and pull something out of it. And it's just like, if you listen to the African American spirituals and the work songs and the prison songs, a lot of them were the same song. They would just change lyrics here and there. And I think that's a lot of where Ray Charles come from, because you could hear, the gospel, some of the chords and melodies used in some of those classic songs, and he would just change the words and make it a modern day song, which got him in some trouble with some people, but at the same time it really changed the world's view on what could be done in popular music.
Yeah. And you brought up such a great point. I love that you reach back into history and you try to find sort of the roots of where a certain genre might come from, because then we can appreciate all the music that came after. And it also gives credit to the original artists, the original cultures that it belongs to as well.
Absolutely. I think music like that needs a host. If you're a young person listening to music, it's really going to be hard for you to discover Muddy Waters and John Lee Hooker and all the stuff that we're into, because there's not really anybody out there pushing it, and it takes a host to find it. So when I first listened to blues music, of course I listened to the blues backwards. I started with Stevie Ray Vaughan and the Fabulous Thunderbirds, and then I heard Clapton, and then I heard the real deal stuff. And it turns out that I was a bigger fan of the original blues music than I was, the kind of recirculated thing that was going on in the 80s and 90s with George Thorogood and Stevie Ray Vaughan. I love that music too, but I really love where it all came from.
Yeah. So I assume you're a fan of like Robert Johnson and things like that. And
oh yeah. Mississippi Fred McDowell, and just all that great early stuff. Book of White, which was B.B. King's cousin, that he was, when he was doing his vibrato, King was trying to emulate Book of White's slide guitar, and he never could get it. So I always thought that was interesting, that connection was there.
So in addition to blues, what music sort of inspires you today from current artists?
Current artists, man, there's so much great stuff out there to listen to. We've been listening to Black Country Communion's new album a lot in the van. Glenn Hughes on vocals, Joe Bonamassa on guitar, Jason Bonham on drums, and Glenn Hughes is playing bass as well. But that's really inspiring kind of blues rock stuff that we've been listening to. And of course, Government Mule is a favorite of ours. We really love the Mule and the live experience they create. It's like no matter how many times you go to see Government Mule, you get a different experience every time, and that's something that we try to do as well. That's really cool. We listen to a lot of contemporary rock stuff out there. You know, it's good, but we always end up kind of going back to the classics.
You know, even though you're a youngster like myself, and we both have, you know, a lot of life in our careers ahead of us, you know, what is something that has turned out different than you imagined at this point?
It's just like the time that it's took to get to where we're at. It's just like when you're younger, you think, man, you know, I can get out here and make this kind of happen fast, but it never really works out that way. But in our case, it's been a good thing because it's gave us time to figure out who we are as a band and kind of be our own artist development. And we've learned a lot of things about the industry. It's kind of like if you get out there and you experience a lot of early success, you miss out on a lot of knowledge that gain by kind of taking the longer journey. So I'm kind of grateful for it in that aspect. You know, we were really busy around 2017, 18, 19. Then the pandemic hit when slowed us down. And our original drummer, Andrew, decided he wanted to stay home, do the family thing. And our guitarist at the time went to play bass for an active rock band. So we had about a 3-year hiatus. We were trying to figure out what to do. I had thyroid cancer in the middle of that, had to get my thyroid removed, take some radiation. So once I got past that, and we started, you know, putting the new lineup of the band together, it was kind of like we appreciated things so much more after having that, you know, 3-year break, and kind of figuring out that people did need a notice out there. We had so many people reach out. It's like, miss seeing you guys, and we consistently got show offers and things, and throughout the whole thing. So it's I think we're where we need to be at the right time.
Yeah. You know, I'm glad to hear that you're doing well and you're in a place where you can make music again.
Yeah. It got kind of scary for a minute, but it's all took care of.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you've been feeling burned out, stressed, overwhelmed, or exhausted, the resources and courses at the Self-Care Institute are here to support you. The Self-Care Institute was founded by Dr. Ami Kunimura and provides support for individuals and organizations with burnout prevention, burnout recovery, and stress management. I've personally taken a few of these courses and found them to be super helpful, both professionally and personally. The care you give yourself matters just as much as the care you give to others. But if self-care is difficult for you, you're not alone. And the Self-Care Institute is here to support your well-being, resilience, and sense of fulfillment at work and at home. For more information, visit selfcareinstitute.com or go to the show notes and click on the link.
So a non-music question, what are some books that you have read that have influenced you, whether from a creative side or a music business side or just for fun?
I generally read books for fun most of the time. I mean, there are a lot of music books that we've read. We really love Alan Paul's books about the Allman Brothers band. He's got one called Brothers and Sisters that kind of place after Dwayne's passed, and there's one before that called One Way Out that's really good. Kind of details the history of the band all the way up from like the Allman Joys to the to the very end of the Allman Brothers, which is interesting. But I love read a lot of historical stuff. I'm really into like Native American culture. I enjoy that. And then horror and sci-fi. I collect a lot of vintage paperback books and stuff like that. So yeah, I like to read. It's a good escape from music sometimes.
That is always good. Yeah, I like to collect from guests. I always like to collect different book titles to add to a big old list because it's just fascinating the kinds of books that people are into depending on what their career field is in the creative arts.
There's one book in particular that I learned a lot from, and it's by Robert Palmer, not the singer Robert Palmer, but the other Robert Palmer, and it's called Blues, and it kind of traces the roots of the blues in America, and you learn so many cultural things that have been missed over the years. There's not really a lot of old time blues guys left, so it's nice to have a way to learn that culture and have it passed down. I got to meet Bobby Rush back in 2023, and that was a big deal for me because he's like a living encyclopedia of that stuff. He's 90 years old and he's got more energy than most people my age. So it was really, really cool to talk to him and get to hang with him for a bit.
Oh, that's wonderful. That sort of leads to a great follow-up question, which is, who are some of your other like musical idols that you've managed to meet or work with because of your band, because of what you do?
Like I said, Bobby Rush was a big one. He was really cool to meet. Billy F. Gibbons from ZZ Top has been really impactful, inspiration wise, and also in our career. When we released our first album, I had a chance meeting with Billy, and a friend had passed him along a copy of our first album, and we got a call from him the very next day. It was like, I really love this album. You guys are listening to the right stuff. The guitar playing's great. The singing's great. And he was kind of asking us how we recorded it. And he started mentioning us in like podcast interviews and in different places. And his secretary sent us a press quote. And that really opened up a lot of doors for us. And I've stayed in contact with Billy. I saw him and his wife Gilligan out on the Rock Legends cruise back in January, and obviously a huge influence on us. And it's so fun to get together and talk to him about amps and guitars and old blues. Once in a while, he'll mail me a burnt CD of just random blues stuff that he thinks I need to hear, which is really cool because he always takes a Sharpie and pinstripes the envelope or the box he's sending it in. So it was, I never dreamed I would have that type of connection to Billy, but it's been a really cool thing.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's also really adorable that he sends you a burnt CD versus like a link to something.
Yeah, it's funny. We have a friend, Jimmy Hall. He sang for Wet Willie, but more recently he sang for Jeff Beck before Jeff passed. And he had sent me a picture of Billy was just out there burning copies of our first album, and he gave one to Jeff Beck, he gave one to Buddy Guy, and several other people. So that's a pretty good person to have pushing your music out there.
Yeah, I would say so. So a non-music question, if you could just sort of try any other kind of creative art other than what you currently do, what would you like to just mess around with?
I enjoy art in general. I enjoy like folk art and horror art and stuff like that. So I think if I had the talent for it, that would be something kind of cool to get into. But music's just kind of always been there.
All encompassing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't feel the need to take up knitting or anything anytime soon?
Not really. Once you get into the music, man, it's just there's so much other stuff that you have to do that comes along with it. It's a time-consuming hobby.
It really is, yeah. Do you do a lot of songwriting? And if not, is that something that you would love to do more of?
Yeah, we write a fair amount of songs, and I think we have a little different process than most people. I think for the most part, individual band members kind of bring in a song that they've written or an idea that they're working on. But it seems like for us, if we just write together in the room as a band, it always ends up being better because I may have a riff or an idea and a thought of how that may go in my head, but when the other guys start playing it, that automatically just changes everything that I had in mind and always makes it better. So us writing as a band has always worked out for us.
That's always good because, you sometimes hear horror stories that's not always the case.
Yeah. That's we're very much a band type band opposed to like artist name type band to where everything's just kind of predetermined and he needs some guys to go out there and play with him. We're very much just like, four parts of the same brain.
What's one of your favorite parts about creating a song with your bandmates?
It's just when the song's just kind of writing itself in the moment and you're getting to experience playing it for the first time and you think, how's the audience going to react to this or how's this going to come out in the studio when it's just fresh like that. It's a very addictive drug to write a new song like that.
Yeah, I bet. obviously the creative process has frustrations. What is something that really bothers you or you find is difficult in the creative process?
Sometimes just getting what you're hearing in your head to translate to everyone else, whether it be in a studio setting or amongst the band. Sometimes it's just hard to explain what you have going on in your mind until you actually get it out there, and then once you get it out there, everybody's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Why didn't we do that? It's like, well, I've kind of had it the whole time. It's just getting it to that point of everyone seeing what's going on can be frustrating.
Yeah, understandable. What is some advice that you would have for someone who wants to go into your line of work?
Find your own path and stay on it. If you're chasing a trend, you're already too late. You've got to find your own thing and your own way to do it. And it's always better to build your own dreams and work on your own vision rather than jumping in there and having to help somebody else with theirs. I mean, if you're gonna put the work in, you might as well set yourself up to kind of reap the benefits of it.
That is some really, really excellent advice. And I definitely agree, like following a person's own path, their own dreams, it's just more authentic that way than trying to like jump on a bandwagon, or ride somebody else's coattails,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you've been with your band for quite some time, but you've got an album that's about to come out. But are you the kind of person that thinks ahead? Like where would you like to be in 3 years or 5 years with your group?
Oh, yeah, that's how my mind works. And of course, being in a band, you have to think, at least a year or two ahead because, the touring alone, you got to figure out where you're going to be 6 months from now, a year from now, set goals, what you want to do. I mean, I would like to see us do a lot more touring in the next couple of years. I'd like to see us do an album a year. And kind of make up for some of the time that we lost during the hiatus. And it takes a lot of work, to go out there and find your people and get them to show up consistently and in different areas and, build yourself in different markets. It takes a lot of work, but I'd like to see us do more.
Yeah. And, what I've heard so far, like I really love, and I definitely think that that's doable for you guys for sure. So.
I think so. I think especially now there's a place for it. When we first started, the idea of a new Southern rock band was kind of crazy because active rock was so big at the time. When you mentioned Southern rock, everybody's like, well, bro, Southern rock died in 1977. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not that kind of band. It's taking the influence of that and making something new. It's kind of a hard fact to drive home because we're not like seeing like a legacy classic rock band, and we're not like seeing a tribute band. It's like a new rock and roll experience built on, really deep influences.
Excellent. One serious question and then one fun question to round us off here. Which one would you like first?
Let's get the serious one out of the way.
Okay. It's kind of a doozy. All right. So serious question is, in your own words, what does it mean to live a creative life?
That is a tough question. I guess just be true to yourself every day and hold yourself accountable for what you're creating. I mean, what you're contributing is important, and and you have to hone your craft and keep it up. I mean, there's a lot of detours you take, and a lot of other things to distract you. So you have to be really focused to move it forward, and especially in a band setting where you have to kind of be, one brain for multiple people. It takes a lot of dedication and work to move that forward. So listening to the right stuff, playing every day. I'm really picky about what I listen to because I think whatever you listen to is eventually going to manifest itself in your playing and songwriting. So, I think it's good to be diverse and listen to a lot of things and just kind of control what inspires you to some degree.
That makes sense. And I love that, That's excellent advice and great thoughts on that. So, fun question. Since you live in Kentucky, what is one of the best places that you'd recommend a tourist to come to visit there food-wise?
Food-wise, I would say go to Tompkinsville, Kentucky. We have our own kind of style of Southern Kentucky barbecue. We have something called shoulder. and it's sliced really, really thin, and they put like a vinegar-based mott sauce on it. And it's the only place I know of that you can get it. Like once you get out of this area, and you mentioned shoulder, they're like, "Man, what are you talking about? We don't know what that is." But it's like the main form of barbecue here in South Central Kentucky. And there's several different places that fix it in that style. But the best one is called Tooley's, and it's in Monroe County, Kentucky, in the city of Tompkinsville.
That sounds excellent. Next time I get through that part of the country, I'll definitely have to check it out because I'm a big fan of barbecue. So
do it. It's good stuff.
Wonderful. Well, Boone, thank you so much for being on the show.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And listeners, please check the show notes for links on where to purchase Otis's previously released albums, as well as checking out news for their current single, their upcoming albums, and any touring dates, etc. And as always, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Creative Piecemeal. We hope today's episode left you feeling inspired. This podcast is independently created and produced by the host, Tami Takaishi. More details about today's guest can be found in the show notes, along with links to the podcast's socials, merch store, and ways to support arts organizations AHA Broadway and New Normal Rep, both near and dear to Tammy's heart. Don't forget to visit creativepiecemeal.com, the official podcast website, where you can leave fan mail, write a review, explore Tammy's blog, and discover the growing collection of episodes. Special thanks to our audio engineer, Alex Rapetti. Additional narration by Dante Jace. Let's keep celebrating creativity in all its forms.